And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, The man in whose skin or flesh there will have arisen a diverse color, or a pustule, or something that seems to shine, which is the mark of leprosy, shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to anyone you wish among his sons. And if he sees that leprosy is in his skin, and that the hair has turned a white color, and that the place where the leprosy appears is lower than the rest of the skin and the flesh, then it is the mark of leprosy, and at his judgment he shall be separated. But if there will be a shining whiteness in the skin, but it is not lower than the rest of the flesh, and the hair is of unaffected color, the priest shall seclude him for 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall examine him, and if the leprosy certainly has not increased further, and has not spread itself in the skin, he shall seclude him again, for another 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall evaluate him. If the leprosy has become obscured, and has not increased in the skin, he shall declare him clean, because it is a scab. And the man shall wash his clothes, and he shall be clean. But if the leprosy increases again, after he was seen by the priest and restored to cleanness, he shall be brought to him. And he shall be condemned of uncleanness. If the mark of leprosy has been in a man, he shall be brought to the priest. And he shall look upon him. And when there is a white color in the skin, and it has an altered appearance in its hair, and also the same flesh seems alive, it shall be judged a chronic leprosy, which has grown into the skin. And so the priest shall declare him contaminated, and he shall not seclude him, because he is clearly unclean. But if the leprosy will have flourished, coursing through the skin, and will have covered all the skin from the head even to the feet, whatever falls under the sight of the eyes, the priest shall examine him, and he shall judge that the leprosy that he possesses is very clean, because it has all turned to whiteness, and for this reason the man shall be clean. Yet truly, when the living flesh shall appear in him, then by the judgment of the priest he shall be polluted, and he shall be considered to be among the unclean. For the live flesh, if it is spotted with leprosy, is unclean. And if again it will have turned into whiteness, and will have covered the entire man, the priest shall examine him, and he shall discern him to be clean. But when there has been an ulcer in the flesh and the skin, and it has healed, and in the place of the ulcer there appears a white or reddish scar, the man shall be brought to the priest. And when he will have seen the place of the leprosy lower than the rest of the flesh, and that the hair has turned white, he shall declare him contaminated. For the plague of leprosy has arisen from the ulcer. But if the hair is of the usual color, and the scar is somewhat obscure and is not lower than the nearby flesh, he shall seclude him for 7 days. And if it will have certainly increased, he shall judge him to have leprosy. But if it stays in its place, it is the scar of an ulcer, and the man shall be clean. But if flesh and skin has been burned by fire, and, having been healed, now has a white or red scar, the priest shall examine it, and if he sees that it has turned white, and that its place is lower than the rest of the skin, he shall declare him contaminated, for the mark of leprosy has arisen in the scar. But if the color of the hair has not been changed, nor is the mark lower than the rest of the flesh, and the leprosy itself appears to be somewhat obscure, he shall seclude him for 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall evaluate him. If the leprosy will have increased further in the skin, he shall declare him contaminated. But if the whiteness stays in its place and is not very clear, it is the mark of a burn, and for this reason he shall be declared clean, because it is only the scar from a burn. If leprosy will have sprung up in the head or the beard of a man or woman, the priest shall look upon them. And if the place is certainly lower than the rest of the flesh, and the hair is golden, and thinner than usual, he shall declare them contaminated, because it is the leprosy of the head and the beard. But if he sees that the place of the spot is equal with the nearby flesh, and that the hair is black, he shall seclude him for 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall examine it. If the spot has not increased, and the hair has kept its color, and the place of the mark is equal with the rest of the flesh, the man shall be shaven, except in the place of the spot, and he shall be secluded for another 7 days. On the 7th day, if the mark seems to have stayed in its place, and it is not lower than the rest of the flesh, he shall declare him clean, and, his clothes having been washed, he shall be clean. But if, after his cleansing, the spot will have increased again in the skin, he shall no longer inquire as to whether the hair has turned yellow, because he is plainly unclean. Furthermore, if the spot has not increased, and the hair is black, let him know that the man is healed, and let him confidently pronounce him clean. If a whiteness will have appeared in the skin of a man or a woman, the priest shall examine them. If he detects an obscured whiteness shining in the skin, may he know that it is not leprosy, but a white-colored blemish, and that the man is clean. The man whose hair falls off of his head is bald and clean. And if the hair falls off of his forehead, he is bald in front and clean. But if in the bald head or bald forehead there has arisen a white or reddish color, and the priest will have seen this, he shall condemn him without doubt of leprosy, which has arisen in the baldness. Therefore, whoever will have been spotted by leprosy, and who has been separated at the judgment of the priest, shall have his clothes unstitched, his head bare, his mouth covered with a cloth, and he himself shall cry out that he is contaminated and filthy. The entire time that he is a leper and unclean he shall live alone outside the camp. A woolen or linen garment that will have held the leprosy, in the main fibers or in any of the threads, or certainly in a skin, or whatever has been made from a skin. If it has been infected with a white or red spot, it shall be considered to be leprosy, and it shall be shown to the priest. And he, having examined it, shall close it up for 7 days. And on the 7th day, having looked at it again, if he detects an increase, it is a persistent leprosy. He shall judge the garment to be polluted, along with everything with which it has been found. And because of this, it shall be burned in flames. But if he will have seen that it has not increased, he shall instruct them, and they shall wash whatever has the leprosy in it, and he shall close it up for another 7 days. And when he will have seen that the former appearance has not returned, even if the leprosy has not increased, he shall judge it to be unclean, and he shall burn it with fire, for the leprosy has been infused in the exterior of the garment, or throughout the whole. But if the place of the leprosy has become somewhat darker, after the garment has been washed, he shall tear it away, and separate it from the part that is sound. But if, after this, there will appear in those places which before were immaculate, a flying and wandering leprosy, it must be burned with fire. If it will have ceased, he shall wash with water the parts which are pure for a second time, and they shall be clean. This is the law about leprosy for any woolen or linen garment, in the weave and in the threads, and for all items made from skins, how it must be declared either clean or contaminated.